Hello and very warm welcome to ET Auto and to this very special and exclusive live post-budget discussion with industry leaders and industry association heads. So we are really grateful to all the participants, starting with Mr. Vinod Agarwal, an industry veteran, president of SIAM and MD and CEO of Volvo Eicher Commercial Vehicles. Welcome to this session, sir. We are joined by NK Minda, CMD Uno Minda Group, and also a past president of ACMA, that's the Automotive Component Manufacturers Association. We are joined by another industry leader, Santosh Iyer, Managing Director and CEO of Mercedes-Benz India, the leading luxury car maker in India. And we are also joined by another industry association head, Manish Raj Singhania, who is the president of FADA, Federation of Automobile Dealers Associations. And last but not least now, Saurabh Agarwal, who is the partner at EY India. So welcome to this very special session, gentlemen. And very soon, we will also be joined by the president of ACMA, Shraddha Suri Marwa, also the CMD of Subros, and later by Ashim Sharma, senior partner at Nomura Research. Just barely an hour ago, the Finance Minister of India, Nirmala Sitharaman, presented her 7th union budget, and thereby also creating a record. And the previous record was held by former Prime Minister Morarji Desai. And in this year's budget, as we all know, because of the elections, there was an interim budget earlier, but now with the elections over and the government coming to power for the 3rd consecutive term and as an NDA, so the finance minister presented the budget. A lot was expected. And some of them were met, some of them were not met. So what are the hits and misses, and what are the announcements that were made today would mean for the automotive industry, directly or indirectly? That's what we are here for, to learn from the industry leaders and association heads. So starting off with you, Mr. Agarwal, as SIAM president, how would you rate the budget, and what are the key takeaways according to you?
I would say this budget is a continuation of growth-oriented agenda. So therefore, we welcome that from SIAM, especially the continued allocation on infrastructure projects, 11.11 lakh crores. And we should not forget that this is on the higher base, because last year, it was the increase of 33% over the previous 750,000 crores to 10 lakh crores to now to 11.11 lakh crores. So this is a very good, I would say, continuation of the growth-oriented agenda, and this has the multiplier impact on the economy as well as the auto sector. The second thing which we welcome is the allocation of 2.66 lakh crores for rural development and infrastructure, because this was one of our requests to the finance minister, that there should be steps to boost the rural economy. I think this is a welcome step, and there is also some renewed focus on the Pradhan Mantri Gramin Sadak Yojana. So that is also, I think, good for the rural sector. And third welcome step is the focus on skilling and upskilling, employment generation, as well as the manufacturing sector and support to MSMEs. I think these are all the good steps in the budget. And then, of course, there are some steps with respect to the electric vehicle import of lithium-ion battery parts. There have been some exemption of custom duty on those parts. I think that is again good for the electric vehicle sector. And finally, the removal of this 2% equalization levy, which was also one of the demands from the auto sector. So that has been removed now. It was an unnecessary irritant, and it was leading to a lot of litigation. So this removal of 2% equalization levy is a good step. So these are, I think, 4 or 5 positive factors which from SAM side we welcome.
Anything that you wished to see and perhaps would have been good to have?
We were expecting that there may be some announcement with respect to FAME 3 or maybe with respect to some incentives on the scrappage of vehicles. So which have not come in this budget, but I'm sure maybe they will come separately, because definitely for boosting the electric vehicles, we will need FAME 3.
And also, I mean, in the interim budget, though it was an interim budget, the topic of clean energy was touched upon. The FM then had mentioned about hydrogen, green hydrogen mission, and also the CBG plans. But one expected perhaps for that also to continue, see some mention in this budget. That didn't quite happen, considering that India is really focusing on going carbon neutral by 2070. That is another, that's a miss, you think?
No, I think that agenda continues, because no mention doesn't mean that the earlier initiatives which are already going on, those will get discontinued. So therefore, we assume that whatever projects are already going on under green hydrogen and sustainability and decarbonization, those are continuing. So therefore, that's not a miss, I would say.
Right. But I think, and also as a commercial vehicle industry, the mention of the 4th phase of the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana comes as good news to you, right?
Yeah, of course, the entire infrastructure investments and also special allocation for rural areas.
Right.
I think that's a good step, because rural economy is one area where, of course, we had been seeing it that that is where we need more sale of entry-level vehicles or entry-level two-wheelers. So that was happening less there. So with the, I think, increase in the money available there, or increased spending in that sector, we should see better consumption in the rural economy.
So talking about vehicle sales, let me get the perspective of FADA, the premier industry body for automotive dealerships. Manish, rural economy was under some stress, and some segments of vehicles still continue to really face a challenging period. So whatever was announced pertaining to the rural economy today, do you think that would kind of help address that challenge to a fair extent?
So yes, I mean, I should really call this, budget about the poor, the women and youth, and obviously the farmer. The government had a very, very special and high focus on the farming industry and agriculture and rural industry as such. And I think overall that is what is required by the auto industry right now. Overall, urban sector, semi-urban has been doing pretty well. And consistently, we are delivering numbers and performances. Even on a very high note compared to last year, we have been able to deliver a decent growth in the Q1. So what was required was the rural reform and rural economy to come into play with the numbers that are really, rolling. So this kind of allocation, the 1,11,000 crore allocation, and plus, before the budget, they had also announced an additional outlay of 35,000 crore for the kharif crops, various crops. MSP has been increased, and that would ensure an additional fund flow in rural economy of 35,000 crore. And plus this Pradhan Mantri Gramin Sadak Yojana connecting additional 25,000 villages. All this will ensure spend is happening in rural economy. And all this, the spend finally culminates somewhere, it gives a boost to the rural economy. The rural economy took the maximum time to recover from COVID impact. A lot of job losses and everything was there. And now I think it is on the verge of we can expect some performance from rural economy. So I think all these outlays, all these schemes that will definitely benefit the rural economy, and hence whenever there's an additional fund flow coming in rural economy, the auto sector definitely gets benefit. What Vinodji specifically quoted, the entry-level passenger cars, entry-level two-wheeler segment that has been struggling, that gets a boost, and also small commercial vehicle. So all this will definitely play a kind of role in boosting the rural economy. What we can expect is the kind of good rainfalls that we are seeing. If that also plays a very important role in the quality and quantity of crop. So if the monsoon turns out to be good, we can expect a good festive season with all this fund flowing in the rural economy.
Correct. So that's what I think the entire automotive industry across segments would expect a good festive season, because considering that depending on which segment one looks at, there are some areas where there are causes for concern. Let me bring in another industry veteran, Mr. N.K. Minda, who also has to exit from this session because of another engagement of his. Minda ji, please, your initial remarks on the union budget announced today, but also as an industry veteran, now what are the key hits and perhaps misses that you see?
So thank you very much. First and foremost, I mean, we welcome the union budget, this budget, and I think is looking forward-looking initiatives. As Vinodji and Manishji mentioned about the infrastructure, rural economy, this Gram, Sadak Yojana. Other than that, I would like to focus, 3 or 4 things. One is that the MSME, the credit guarantee scheme for MSME. This will enhance the tier 2 development and the localization, which will be more useful for our Atmanirbhar Bharat, which we are importing many components, so we will be able to localize that. And the second one is the employment incentive scheme and the internship, for the skilling. So skilling upgradation, the government is, coming out with this scheme, which will, we have a lot of requirement of the talent going forward in each sector. And for Atmanirbhar Bharat also, the talent is required. So we will be able to, generate more and more talent. And I think this will be benefited to everyone. Then we have to yet to see this 1 lakh crore allocation of the R&D sector, the private sector. We need to see what exactly how it will work on. But actually, this will be very, very benefited again for the Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Right.
And the last, particularly we at Uno Minda, we are encouraged by the focus of encouraging women participation in the workplace. The initiative to set up hostels, organizing women-specific skilling, and there are all crucial steps towards the job employment and the diverse manufacturing sector. And we participate a lot. We are active in the almost 70% women's work in our factories. So I think this will be helping us a lot as an industry also, and we at particular in Uno Minda. So these are few addition points other than, and the other you were talking about FAME 2 and all those things. I think GST, we were expecting little bit reduction in the auto sector. I think that is an ongoing request. I think government will look someday.
Talking about taxation, Saurabh, from the taxation perspective, from the taxes perspective, now, do you think now it would help consumption and thereby have a positive impact on the auto sector also?
So I think if you look at overall the income which has been left in the hand, additional income which has gone in the hands of people is around 17,500 in terms of taxes. I don't know that whether it will actually increase the consumption or not. Actually, it is not even beating the inflation survey. Point which we have to look from an auto sector standpoint. One thing, and of course, we have seen what all are the good things in the budget. One thing which the sector was expecting, auto plus any manufacturing sector, that the concessional income tax rate of 15% for the new manufacturing units will come in, which was nowhere there in the budget. So that's one important area which at least I saw as a miss. Second point, when we look from an auto standpoint, is that the entire EMPS scheme, we were thinking that the scheme is applicable till July 31st, which means that it has to be extended as FAME 3 has yet not come. So there should have been additional allocation of funds. When I look at the expenditure budget,
Shraddha, good to see you again, and welcome to this online session. As you know, an industry association head, you think, because at the end of the day, an automobile is sum of all parts, especially the one where the abolition of the custom duty on critical minerals, that would come as music to your ears, especially considering that the electrification megatrend is on the rise, and thereby it may have an with this announcement, it may have a positive bearing on the EV industry.
Yeah, so thank you for having me. So at the outset, I mean, it's a great budget. We welcome it. It's focusing on inclusive growth. It's focusing on sustainable development. And as everybody's already said that, huge outlays on infrastructure, focus on the MSMEs, and definitely reduction in custom duty on these critical minerals like lithium, copper, cobalt, etc., will propel the EV ecosystem, which we're very, very excited about. We're also excited about the abolition of the angel tax for startups, because a lot more startups are actually coming into our space. And what excites me personally most is the encouragement for women in the workforce and skilling, because I think these two are extremely important. The more diverse the workforce, the more innovative we will be. So I think, that's a great step in that direction.
Santosh, let me bring you in here. What is in it for the luxury segment? I mean,
Yes, Sumanta,
there isn't anything directly, but indirectly at least.
Yeah, but sometimes policy continuity is also, and we take it for granted. And after listening to a marathon speech, when you really find out that not much has been changed in terms of custom duty tax, because the earlier attempts were always to do some fine tuning everywhere in many harmonic codes. We have to yet to see the full text and the full outcome of the budget. But in sense, the team also tells me that there's not much of change. It's a reduction, of course, in the rare earth minerals, which is welcome, because India needs a lot of setup ecosystem to get battery chemistry and many other things going. But in general, not tinkering with many of these custom duty rates and others, I think that itself, policy continuity, which is important and critical for long-term planning. I think this budget really gives that direction as such. So that's one positive. On the other side, from luxury car industry, there were two requests. One was, of course, we were looking for continued spends on infra, and I think my earlier friends from CIM and others have also clearly mentioned that I think that's a real welcome move, because we have clearly seen a direct correlation of infrastructure growth to our car sales, also more of intercity commute, etc., helping luxury car sales. So I think that definitely should help the growth story continue. We also are clear that budget is not about tax like GST, because this is outside of the budget. But and therefore, the expectations that any tax changes when it comes to GST may not be practical. But on the other side, we were also looking at any statement when it comes to EV in particular, as such, which we couldn't hear, but there was surely a mention about transition to green energy and trying to see, there was a taxonomy to be developed for this green transformation. So I think we should still wait for more details on some of these topics, because the electrification can only happen when the statement is clear, the government is fully on it, all in with all the enablers. And duty reduction in rare earth minerals, all are welcome, but we need much bigger steps as well when it comes to commitment from the government that we will continue this path on electrification. Overall, I think great budget, because it should drive consumption. I think the earlier there was a remark whether the 17,500 should go into consumption or it goes into saving and inflation. But I think in today's context, with so much of impetus being given for skilling, lot of incentives being given, surely directly, indirectly, and as Manish mentioned, if the rural consumption drives up, 48% of sales in automotive sector are happening from tier 2, tier 3 markets. So as we are more of a trickle down effect that we see for our segment. And the one thing which is also not clear is the long-term, the capital gain tax calculation on real estate, because that's a very big sector for us when it comes to purchasing cars. On one hand, it has been brought down from 20 to 12.5. That should be good. But on the other hand, the indexation benefit has been taken away. So we have to still see how does consumers now buy and sell houses or real estate, and what impact it has, because that's definitely one of the big target segment for luxury customers. And any impact on real estate also has some impact on the demand for luxury cars. So that's in a nutshell. I think quite happy with the continuity on most of the taxes, and no changes there as well.
Okay, very well covered your points there, Santosh. And as you rightly said, it's not, at least in this budget, the luxury segment stands to be a beneficiary of trickle-down effects or indirect advantages.
Yes,
Mr. Agarwal, before I let you go, I would also like to understand the skilling part. The skilling part, that there's a very clear focus on skilling. That would be is a much needed kind of area of focus for the industry also. But in which area do you think the government should kind of really encourage skilling?
I think they have mentioned it in general terms that for the factories or in the industries for all sorts of apprentice schemes or trainees, or so they are giving a lot of encouragement and giving incentives or participation in the initial cost. Or so I think all those are welcome steps which will encourage more and more. It will create more employment, and it will also encourage more skilling and more migration towards the new technologies. So there has to be a lot of upskilling for migrating to new technologies. I think this will be very good. It's a very welcome step. Other positive thing in this budget is about the fiscal deficit. I think the government has very good control on the finances. Their revenues from tax and non-tax revenues, and then the balancing act. So they have, I think, brought down the fiscal deficit target to, I think, 4.6% or around that, which is a very, I would say, very good development. And over next 2-3 years, it will be brought down further. I think that's a very good development for the country as a whole.
Yeah, as the FM said, the target is 4% eventually. So, yeah. Mindaji, since the FM also decided to abolish the angel tax, does it also encourage you to make some new investments?
See, it does not matter whether the government, as you have seen in our economic survey 2 days back. So, in India, investment will continue. Investment means we all know that our per capita car, we are 24 about 1,000 per 1,000, and whereas an average is 314, a worldwide average. So we have huge potential going forward. If our GDP continue to grow, if our infrastructure continue to grow, our infrastructure, road, per capita income continue to grow, I think we have huge potential, huge demand. And to me, investment will continue. And this is a time where everybody is investing for the future.
Right. Now, when I talked about angel tax, I also meant about any individual investment that you would like to make on some startup, on the startup side.
No, of course, that is, we are already doing it as a part of from our company also, and as part of from our family office also. So we need to promote the, how do I say, the continuous startup, the new entrepreneur. And, we need to, and in we are also giving them training, how to do, what to do in our R&D center, what is the need of the market. It is not that only we are funding and then leaving. So hand-holding is also our responsibility.
Absolutely. Shraddha, talking about startups, and as the FM said, the focus is on innovation and R&D, and considering that we cannot overlook the crucial role, increasingly important role that the startup ecosystem is playing. So thereby, this comes as a very welcome move, you would say. And in the how would the auto component industry, benefit from this in terms of, let's say, the effects of it?
So indeed, it's a great move because what is happening in the auto sector now is that the lines are blurring between technology and mobility per se. And the innovation is actually coming from various areas. And one of them is startups. In fact, in ACMA, we actually started a pillar for startups because there is so much traction over there. And this move will really propel that. As Minda Saab said, everyone today is investing in startups, hand-holding the startups, because we do believe that, that's where the future lies. Because technology is moving at such a fast pace, and the car is no longer just a car. It's an interactive mobility device, if I may say so. So this is very, very encouraging. This, along with, as I said earlier, the cut on the materials, will really push both electronics, electricals, software, as well as the EV ecosystem. So it'll all go together. So I think it's very well thought through.
Right. And as you mentioned about the initiative at ACMA to have a focused group for startups, how big is it currently?
So, I mean, I don't have the exact numbers, but it's a group that is growing, and we have one of our very senior members of ACMA actually leading that group, and there's a lot of excitement there. And the areas that they're actually looking at is not just software; it's also integration, it's ECUs, it's electronics. So there's a lot happening there. Yeah.
Okay, I see. Saurabh,
I will take leave. I have another engagement, so I'll take leave. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Agarwal. Really appreciate you taking time out. I can understand you have kind of lined up a lot of interactions on this budget day. So really appreciate you taking time out from your busy schedule. Thank you once again.
And thank you, Sumandraji, if I may also request.
Okay, thanks. And I understand you are also in a conference, supplier conference in Bangalore. Right. So appreciate you taking time out. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good day. All the best.
Saurabh, before there was an interruption in your connection, you were talking about the taxation on the impact of the announcement on the tax regime. So please go ahead.
Yeah, so the point which I was making, the second point was around the FAME and EMPS. I have not seen that there is any additional allocation which has been made into the schemes, which means that EMPS, which is there till July 31st, whether it will be further extended or not, that becomes a question mark, which means how it will impact the demand of the two-wheeler electric vehicles is something which will need to be seen. While FAME 3, of course, it appears, and I think the minister has already made a statement that it will take few more months for FAME 3 to be rolled out. So which means how for these 2-3 months till the time FAME 3 is rolled out, what will be the impact on two-wheeler EVs is something which needs to be looked into. Another third point from a tax standpoint is that there has been a reduction in custom duty rates on critical minerals, which is very important, which means that from an advanced chemistry cell standpoint, or even from a green hydrogen standpoint in near future, the government is very clear that they need to push the localization agenda. And that's why they are reducing the duties on critical minerals. At the same time, they've increased the duty on batteries for electric vehicles, which is very clearly in line with the policy of the government, which is around Make in India and not Made in India. So Made in India was more focused on assembly, it's more around deep localization. So I think they're continuing that particular focus around the same. I think, again, maybe at the cost of reiteration, I think one particular thing which I personally feel is a miss in this budget is the concessional corporate tax rate. It was expected that the concessional corporate tax rate, which was there available till March 24, will come in this particular budget as well, which is not coming, which means that from a new manufacturing perspective, that incentive which was there from a tax perspective somewhere is missing. But I will agree with Mindaji and various other experts that the overall India shining story continues with the GDP rising, with the per capita income rising. I think overall the industry will continue to invest into the manufacturing in this particular sector, and more so from an auto standpoint.
Ashim, now you have logged in for quite some time, but and thank you once again for joining this very special live session on the budget. You heard the industry heads, industry association heads, and industry leaders talking about their perspective. What would you say as the top two hits and maybe top two misses here?
Well, I think some of those have been covered, but if you ask me, one is of course this thing around the whole customs duty bit, which is not just covering materials that are going to batteries, but also things like rare earths, rare earths which will constitute electric motors, and maybe more so when we also look at the hydrogen ecosystem, some of the minerals that will be impacting that as well. So I think that's a very positive step, because clearly we don't make those minerals, we don't have those minerals within the boundaries of the country. So, reducing the customs duty on them does make a lot of sense. The other one is around, this whole green initiatives, which are, say, clubbed into one is the taxonomy for climate finance, or when we also talk about, having a roadmap for the hard to abate sectors around, an Indian carbon market, or also the fact around the priority energy security. We're talking of a document coming out, which balances growth, employment, as well as environmental sustenance. I think this will have a multi-pronged impact. One, for the hard-to-abate sectors, for example, they could look at greener transportation options, say trucks running on hydrogen, for example. That could be something that could come in. Better financing rates for these could impact, say, costs of fuels that are very expensive. Just again, a case in point is hydrogen, for example. When we talk about an energy security pathway, looking at a multi-pronged approach, I think that will also lead to a focus on a variety of fuels. So there's, of course, electrification, but alongside that, biofuels, methanol, green hydrogen, and even natural gas, both LNG and CNG. So I think, once that document comes out, we'll have more clarity. But I think from all these perspectives, we see sort of a focus around various aspects of green or sustainable mobility coming in. What's a miss? I wouldn't say it's exactly a miss, but is also around, people expecting something coming around the FAME scheme, etc. But I think that was already also known, because the minister had declared a few weeks back or a week back that it may not be part of the budget in any case. So that is one. The other is, if we could have seen some more incentives around R&D and, tax benefits thereof, that could probably have also sort of, given a bigger boost towards innovation in the sector, which really needs innovation, given the multi-technology pathways that it needs to embrace very soon.
Okay, I see. Manish, here, there was the announcements that were made this union budget also, at least from a listener's perspective, it appeared to me that there's a focus on addressing the employment issue also. And there have been some incentives for first-time employees, for example, and even some support for employers. So now that bodes well for, of course, all sectors, bodes well for definitely the employees and the employers, and thereby into the sectors where they would be spending the money. And so how much of that could be good news for at least, let's say, the two-wheeler segment, for example?
So auto dealerships definitely employ almost 40 lakh people directly and plus indirectly. And this scheme of the people who are getting first time enrolled in EPFO, and the government will pay 15,000 rupees in 3 installments. That's a good kind of perspective here. And plus the employers will also get 3,000 rupees. That will enhance or encourage right now what is needed. The need is the employment for the youth, and this is the new generation that is coming in on the workplace, and we are able to retain them, whether all these auto sector together as a combined SAM, ACMA, FADA, everybody combines, then government has got a youth responsibility here, employing all these youths that are coming in the market, and this scheme will definitely benefit it. And all this kind of getting people into organized sector on role employment will also definitely benefit the two-wheeler segment. There is also no doubt about it. But what we have been asking for the two-wheeler segment, the only challenge that we see is the entry-level two-wheeler is now costing almost 65,000 rupees. That is almost 50% more than the BS4 models that we are seeing in 2020. So the entry level segment, I mean, that is the average price has gone up. So that's the big challenge for realizing the mobility dream of Indians. So cost of acquisition in terms of entry level, that poses a challenge. But yes, definitely this will also encourage or benefit the two-wheeler segment. And also for dealership, they have also increased the Mudra loan. Small dealers, when they start the work, especially EV dealers, they are cropping everywhere. So from 10 lakh to 20 lakh interest-free Mudra loan, so that can also benefit the auto dealership community.
I see. Shraddha, from a skilling perspective, I mean, it's not a new thing for the automotive industry ever since, especially the electrification and megatrend has really encouraged and pushed almost all industry players to really skill or reskill the workforce. At the auto component industry level, now, what are the new initiatives being planned or being thought of? Maybe at ACMA also, I don't know if you are already of some new initiatives maybe, and which would also perhaps get a, if I may call, a shot in the arm with what the FM said today.
So very rightly said, skilling is a very important part of our ecosystem, and we've been doing that for a while. In fact, ACMA has its own center of excellence, which focuses on skilling, so both hands-on and others. And we've been, as time has gone by, we've been skilling, reskilling, and adapting ourselves as mobility evolves. Lately, we have a lot of programs that are going on sustainability and on the and on around the EV ecosystem, because what happens with EV is that sensitivity of components increases. So that's required. As software increases, you need to reskill your workforce and upskill them rather, to understand how to talk to just two machines, to also talk to software and also integrate both of them. So there's a lot of work happening over there. I encourage everybody to come and actually see it. It's a world-class facility right here in Sonipat. So yeah, so through ACMA, we're doing a lot of work. Industry by itself is also doing a lot of work. The OEs are also encouraging all the component suppliers to do work on it. So yeah, so that's where it is.
I see. Okay. Saurabh, now when it comes to there is now an expectation in the industry also of some kind of revision in the GST for vehicle, especially let's say this debate going on between EVs and hybrids. Could that have conveyed a message to all stakeholders in terms of where the governance focus is? Is it really going whole hog on the battery electric vehicle technology, or in its quest to carbon neutrality by 2070, maybe a bouquet of technology where BEV and hybrid, they get an equal chance in terms of by offering them maybe equal GST.
So, Sumantra, I think it's a good point which you have raised. I think first thing, before I comment upon it, it's very important to understand that GST is not part of the budget. I think the expectations that there will be any GST rate changes coming in the budget may be incorrect to that particular extent. Now, the question which was more around in the media all the way during this particular budget journey was that there will be reduction in cess on the hybrid vehicles. Likely, there will be a 54 GST council. During the course, there will be a discussion which should happen in this particular regard. And in that particular case, if the council recommends, then the cess can be reduced on hybrid vehicles. Now, if you ask me in person that whether there should be a difference in rate of taxation and more so GST between ICE, hybrid, and EV, I believe that all three of them are in a different footing and should always be kept in a different footing. ICE being taxed at the highest rate, subsequent to which hybrid should be taxed at a rate lower than that of ICE. And then, of course, EV is being taxed at a 5% rate. Now, the only difference which the industry has been wanting across was that as far as hybrid is concerned, don't tax it as equal as that of ICE, which they have done to some extent as far as the cess is concerned. But industry still looks for some bit of more reduction in the GST rates. Whether it comes through the rate of GST or through a cess is a separate item. I would put it like this, that the cess should be reduced on hybrid, and that has been an ask of the industry. And I think it's more important to understand that hybrid is a transition towards EV. We cannot say that we can directly move towards EV. That has been a ask which has been continuously coming from the industry. But of course, we'll have to look into as to how government looks into this particular part when we move towards the 54 GST Council.
Okay. That's very well put. In fact, GST revisions are not definitely made during the budget. But no, what I meant was maybe some direction, or some messaging, on that front. But yes, maybe that's for another day. Ashim, in terms
Sorry,
of,
may I come in? I do
yes,
have
please.
to connect onto another call. So if you permit
Oh,
me.
I see. All right, Shraddha, thanks. Any last words from you before you move out?
Yeah, of course. I mean, as I said earlier, the thrust on inclusive growth is extremely important. The thrust on sustainable development as it has happened is good. We do feel that, our industry, as somebody said earlier, it has a cascading impact. So as wealth in the hands of the individual grows, it will cascade downwards. And of course, after a house, everybody wants to buy a vehicle, whether it's a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler. So I think that's important. And I think and India works a lot on feel good. And it's a feel good budget. It is a good budget. People will feel good about it. And eventually it will lead to increase in consumption. It may happen slowly, but we believe that it will happen. As far as the auto component sector is concerned, we're happy with what's come our way. It's hitting the spot on the areas that we are focusing on. Whether it's low cost automation, whether it's startups, whether it's, the EV ecosystem, the MSMEs, because 2/3 of our whole, our whole membership is MSMEs. So encouraging the MSMEs, so they are the ones who will really take us forward. And it's very encouraging to have the schemes that have come out for them, the credit guarantee schemes, etc. So all in all, thank you.
Thanks. And thanks, Shraddha, once again for sparing your time and joining us with your very valuable insights and views. And hope to meet you in person sometime soon. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mantra, will you excuse me as well? Sorry, I have a next one to go.
Okay, I understand. Thanks, Saurabh. You had mentioned me earlier. So no, thanks for sharing your views. Any last words from you before we move out?
So I think I would go by what Shraddha said. I think the budget was more focused on MSME, and it was expected that there will be a focus on MSME. 2-3 points which Minna ji, Shraddha ma'am, all of them has been talking about. One is the entire employment linked incentive scheme. This will help MSMEs, and the second one is around the credit guarantee scheme, which will help MSMEs. Which in turn means that there will be a ripple effect on the auto component industry, as Shraddha pointed out, that 2/3 of their members are MSMEs. So I think that focus was clearly coming out from the budget.
Great. Thanks. On that note, thank you, Saurabh. Hope to meet you soon. Manish, talking about MSMEs, there was some representation by FADA earlier also in terms of getting certain recognition and in terms of support from the government. Also, for not really as an MSME, but as a business sector, which really makes a significant contribution, thereby some support. So, what's the status there, and have you made any further representation?
So for MSME, whatever linked schemes have been rolled out, it is only for manufacturers. And we are, retail and service sector, we are registered under MSME. And we did expect something for, I don't know, we haven't yet thought about it, but still something would have been rolled out for service or and retail MSME. Basis on the kind of employment that we give to the industry, that is humongous. So on that basis, to encourage further employment, we thought something would parallelly be rolled out for servicing sector. What few expectations that the budget kind of did not meet. We had asked in our representation for a higher depreciation rates. See, initially the vehicles would be changing hands after 5-7 years. Now the average life of vehicle has come down to 3 years, and after 3 or 4 years, an average customer is changing his or her vehicle. So the rate of depreciation needs to go up now, and the depreciation benefit should be availed by the individual taxpayer or the company taxpayer. Secondly, we had also asked for a level playing field for in terms of income tax taxation. There's a corporate tax for companies, and for companies there is a different level of tax, and whereas most of the auto dealerships are either proprietorship or partnership firms across India. So we had asked for a level playing taxation system where whatever is applicable for corporate, the similar should be applicable for the partnership firms and proprietorship firms. Again, we are the kind of purse of government, and we collect a lot of tax and kind of ensure that it gets in proper place. Whether it is TCS, TDS, a lot of responsibilities have come down on entrepreneurs now. So what they can do, what government could have done was at least for on the income tax front could have not on individual, not I'm not even talking of individual taxation, at least on firms, firms and proprietorship firms, they could have created a level playing field with the corporate taxation.
I see. Okay. And Ashim, while we are discussing the budget, yes, budget is, it gives a direction. It's also a vision document, and it also takes into takes stock of the accounts. But also, we are in an age wherein there are a lot of things which happen outside of the budget. For example, the PLI scheme, the FAME, if you're talking about on the mobility side, on the transportation side. So now, in terms of going forward, what do you think would be a kind of an ideal mix in terms of budgetary announcements and outside of budget initiatives or steps, intervention?
Yeah, so I think outside of budget, one other thing that probably should have been touched in the budget, but it's not been touched, is around scrappage. So I think that's not moved much. And there's a policy around EPR which is in the works, and at the same time, various RBSFs have not been able to get much of utilization. And it can also give a fillip towards safer, more fuel efficient cars, as well as ways to use that whole cycle getting started off. So I think that should also be one thing that probably then comes outside the budget, because it's not come in the budget right now. The second one could be around, as I mentioned earlier, something around which gives a further boost towards R&D. That could be one. Third, I think, which is already being talked about, is the FAME scheme and what all it covers and all of that. I think some sort of thing around that it may also come in the near future, if we go by what we heard in the news from the minister about a week back. Right. So I think those would be certain other areas which would continue to be tapped into, or sort of be the focus apart from what's been talked about in the budget already.
Yeah, and that's very rightly put. And in fact, that mention of the scrappage, though not in detail, at least the mention of it would also kind of convey the message that yes, the government is actively looking at ideas or taking steps to in its quest towards carbon neutrality, also to encourage the circular economy, right? So and thereby can also give a clarity to the automotive industry. Manish, Ashim touched upon a very important point.
Just to add that, I think it's also because the EPR scheme is sort of in a draft state. So maybe they're waiting for that to get finalized and then double it up with whatever incentives, etc., that are needed here.
Possibly.
Sorry, interrupt you. Yeah, please go ahead.
No, that's absolutely okay. Manish, that scrappage topic that Ashim talked about, that would be crucial not only from a circular economy perspective, but also to in the growth of the evolution of the automobile market, right? So, I mean, right now there is not much clarity. I mean, what do you think should happen next in terms of the scrappage scheme that the government indicated, talked about earlier?
I think scrappage policy is very much there. It is in place. It has been rolled out. What is very critical now is, the state needs to adopt the scrappage policy that the center has rolled out. lot of states have come out with their own kind of incentive in terms of whether when you scrap a vehicle and thereafter buy a new vehicle, a lot of states on an average have extended 25% road tax benefit on buying a new vehicle. And a lot of states are still pending for this, rolling out this scrappage benefit policy. If you recollect, while the Minister Mott was rolling out this policy, there was also one part of the OEM that really hasn't come in, wherein the expectation was that OEM would extend an additional benefit of 4% while the customer extends the scrap the vehicle. So it kind of incentivizes the customer or encourages the customer to scrap the vehicle. So that hasn't really come in. No OEM has come up with a dedicated policy encouraging scrapping. Thirdly, if you see, scrapping will only happen if the fitness centers are there and fitness certification is made mandatory. Right now, it is not mandatory and it is out of choice. And a lot of, proper fitness centers are not there in place. So all these are the enablers for the scrappage policy. If these things don't come into play, the scrappage policy would be ineffective. So we really need to ensure that fitness centers are in place. We need to determine which vehicles need to be scrapped and which vehicles can be renewed for registration purposes. So all these will play a very critical role in proper and effective implementation of scrapping policy.
Right. And also, I mean, since we are talking about the automobile market, we are now approaching towards the festive season in India. What is the market sentiment like now, Manish, at the retail level? Because things after a scorching growth, years of growth, 2 years of scorching growth, there seems to be cooling off, and that is resulting in now some inventory pile up also.
So I think even though we are on a very, very high note, especially the passenger car segment, there is still enough traction that needs to be encashed. What we are looking forward is, the festive season now in the month of October, since Navratra and Diwali would be coming in the same month, it would be pretty exciting. The Q1 has shown growth, though the June month did not show much of encouragement. But what dealers during our survey could understand, they attributed mainly due to extreme heat and late arrival of monsoon that kind of delayed the purchase of the consumers. But overall, in the month of July, the monsoon is now evenly spread across the country. A good harvest, I again quote, will be very, very critical for a good season that we are expecting. The only negative point that we see right now is the huge stock pileup that the dealerships are having. We are now stocked up to almost 6 lakhs to 6.5 lakh vehicles worth around 60,000 crore with the dealerships, and that too at the very start of the low season. July and August would be the rainy season, and we don't expect they are the lowest point of the auto retail industry. So that's discouraging. We have written to SIAM also to make correction in the stock level, and they have also confirmed they will be taking up in their executive council and taking up with individual OEMs to take action on it. So while the industry is good, the expectation, what can really drive sales now is the good launches that can happen. That will happen definitely before the festive season. That will drive sales. SUV continues to be the charm of the auto industry, passenger car industry. The budget, what I can see is two things here really happened. The spend on the infra and the strong support for rural economy. Rural economy is the only segment that is not contributing the way we expect the rural economy to contribute. The Bharat of India is not galloping like urban India. So all this will definitely support the rural market. And if you take all this in play and with the inflation stable interest rates stable. All this would definitely, we will see a new high in auto industry for the month of October or September, October.
And just ballpark figure for two-wheelers and for passenger vehicles, what's the share of rural in the retail market?
So we just concluded a survey of with the on the advice of Chief Economic Advisor. They had given us which how you can, because rural and urban definition is with three different ministries, there are three different definitions. So we asked for the definition, how do you define the rural and urban market, and on the guidelines of Chief Economic Advisor's office, we calculated across 1200 RTOs. So on an average, we are seeing 40-45% rural market and 55-60% urban market. In fact, the Chief Economic Advisor's office has just released the report today, and we have been quoted on that.
Okay, that's good to know.
Specifically detailing about two-wheeler and two-wheeler passenger car, three-wheeler and commercial vehicle, urban-rural divide.
Okay, I think only the dealership fraternity and the RTOs would be the most well placed to come up with this kind of information. So thank you very much, Manish. And last words from you, Ashim, before we move out, and we are just nearing the end of this session.
Oh, I think there's never a dull day in the industry because something or the other keeps happening. So it's good that, at least in the budget, you don't have some things of that sort. As Mr. Santosh Iyer was also saying, sometimes continuity in policy is also a good thing. So I think, yeah, from that perspective also, I think it's overall positive. Yeah.
Great. Thanks. On that note, yes, Manish, you have the last word.
I think one thing is also very critical. A lot of promises are made in the budget, but implementation or execution of this policy, this outlay is pretty good, 1,11,000 crore. But they should ensure this outlay is spent. It is allocated to the market. The tenders are rolled out, and it is there in the field. That should be very critical. The government
11,11,000, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, 11 lakh, sorry, 11,000 crore. So government tends to falter on the execution part. Though we definitely have a good minister here playing playing a critical role, but still, I mean, the faltration should not happen. We should keep on ensure this money is really out there and spent. We know that the rural money that the government extend higher MSP, that will definitely reach the farming community because that's a direct bank transfer. But this infrastructure outlay should be
infrastructure, yes, yeah. So therefore, that has to be focused on, no?
Exactly.
Execution as per the announcement.
Exactly.
Right. On that note, gentlemen, Manish, Ashim, thank you very much, and for sparing your time and for sharing your interesting perspectives and insights. And to all those attending this very special live post-budget online discussion with industry leaders and experts, thank you very much for tuning in. And I'm sure you also kind of benefited with all the insights and perspectives shared by our esteemed guests. So on that note, thank you, and wishing you all the best. And till we meet again on another occasion, take care and goodbye.